agents, federal agents, who have now converged on Minneapolis.
Police in Colorado announce a record-breaking fentanyl bust.
They catch your eye because they look like candy, but they are deadly.
Yeah, we're talking about pills laced with fentanyl.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, January 2025. Winter had locked the city in silence. Snow covered the streets and the temperature stayed well below freezing. In the upscale suburb of Edina, everything looked peaceful. Large homes stood behind tall trees, driveways were neatly cleared, and security cameras blinked quietly in the dark. This was a place built on trust, privacy, and reputation. No one living here believed crime could hide among them. That belief would be shattered before sunrise. At exactly 4:47 a.m., an armored federal vehicle rolled slowly onto a quiet residential street. Its headlights were off. Behind it followed unmarked SUVs, their tires crunching softly against the snow. The convoy stopped outside a 7-bedroom mansion with warm lights glowing inside. The house belonged to Ahmed Basher, a respected businessman known across Minneapolis. To the public, he was a refugee success story, a man who arrived with nothing and built restaurants, charities, and community programs, a man often invited to city events and photographed beside politicians. That morning, his story ended. Inside the house, Ahmed Basher sat calmly in the living room. He was fully dressed as if he had been awake for hours. When the door exploded inward and armed agents flooded the room, he didn't resist. He raised his hand slowly and looked at the lead agent. "I've been expecting this," he said quietly. His voice carried no fear, only acceptance. Within seconds, he was in handcuffs. As agents spread through the mansion, the image of a perfect family unraveled. Behind decorative walls, they found vacuum-sealed bundles of cash stacked from floor to ceiling. Hidden compartments beneath staircases contained gold bars and encrypted hard drives. In the attic, agents discovered handwritten ledgers written in Somali and Arabic, detailing shipments, payments, and coded names. This was not random crime. It was organized, calculated, and deeply rooted. The raid on Basher's home was only one piece of a massive federal operation. That same morning, law enforcement teams carried out coordinated raids across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Restaurants, warehouses, nonprofit offices, and private homes were hit at the same time. The targets were not street gangs or violent criminals. They were business owners, community leaders, and family members. 19 people were arrested within hours. All were connected by blood or trust. All were part of the same network. The Basher family arrived in the United States in 2003 as refugees. Over 2 decades, they built an empire that looked clean and respectable from the outside. Ahmed Basher became a successful restaurateur. His wife, Hale Lima, ran a nonprofit that helped refugee women find housing and employment. Their sons took different paths that all led to influence. Omar invested in real estate. Hassan ran an import-export company. Jamal managed a youth community center praised for keeping kids away from crime. They were trusted because they appeared to give back. Behind closed doors, that trust was being exploited. Investigators now believe the Basher family operated one of the most efficient fentanyl distribution systems in the Midwest. Unlike traditional drug rings, they avoided street violence. They did not fight for territory. They did not advertise. Their operation functioned like a business. With strict rules and internal discipline, drugs moved through supply chains hidden inside legitimate institutions. Restaurants were used to package narcotics after hours. Delivery trucks transported drugs alongside food supplies. The nonprofit organization served as a money laundering channel, masking illegal income as donations and grants.
Police have stopped a massive shipment of cocaine from reaching Sydney streets. 128 kilos imported over the weekend.
The Youth Community Center played the most disturbing role. Trusted staff members quietly recruited teenagers as couriers, convincing them they were helping with community work. Many of those teenagers had no idea they were transporting fentanyl. For years, law enforcement struggled to penetrate the operation. There were no informants willing to talk. Anyone who raised concerns faced social pressure and accusations of targeting a minority community. The family's public image became its strongest defense. But the first crack appeared far from Minneapolis. In June 2024, customs officers at the Port of Los Angeles inspected a shipment labeled as spices from Kenya. The paperwork was perfect, but the cargo density raised suspicion. When officers opened the containers, they discovered 47 kilograms of pure fentanyl hidden beneath bags of cumin. The shipment was traced to Hassan Basher's import-export company. Hassan was questioned but denied all involvement.
WDSU reporter Anam Siddiqui was given exclusive access to the DEA's crackdown on criminals. It's a story only on 6.
claimed supplier fraud and presented clean financial records. With no direct proof, the case stalled. Most investigators moved on. Special Agent Rachel Foster did not. She flagged the basher name and continued monitoring shipments, phone records, and bank activity. The breakthrough came from tragedy. In January 2025, 17-year-old Emily Chen was rushed to a Minneapolis hospital after collapsing from an overdose. Doctors found an unusually high concentration of fentanyl in her system.
Fentanyl is a potent drug that can kill with even the smallest of doses.
When she regained consciousness, she told investigators she had received pills from Kareem, a youth worker at the Somali Community Center. Detective Marcus Williams followed the lead. Kareem's bank records showed deposits far beyond his salary. Phone data connected him directly to Hassan Basher's company. Surveillance footage placed him at multiple locations tied to the family. Slowly, the pieces aligned. What looked like separate community institutions were parts of a single closed network. At 4:47 a.m., as federal agents surrounded the Basher mansion, Williams made the final call to prosecutors. The evidence was finally strong enough. What happened next would expose how deeply crime can hide behind respectability. As dawn broke over Minneapolis, the scale of the operation became impossible to ignore. What had begun as a single house raid quickly turned into a statewide lockdown. Federal agents moved fast, knowing that once the arrests became public, evidence could vanish within minutes. Phone networks were monitored, bank transfers were frozen, and ports were placed under emergency inspection orders. The Basher network had relied on silence and speed for years. That morning, both were gone. Inside the Federal Command Center, analysts pieced together what had really been moving through Minnesota. This was not a small regional drug ring, it was a distribution corridor. Fentanyl shipments entered through coastal ports, passed through shell import companies, and were quietly broken down inside restaurants and warehouses. From there, smaller loads spread into rural towns and major cities across the Midwest. The system was efficient, invisible, and deadly. By mid-morning, arrests continued. Hassan Basher was taken into custody at his office without resistance. Omar was arrested at a real estate closing. Jamal was detained inside the youth center he helped build. Hale Lima was arrested while preparing paperwork for a nonprofit grant. Each arrest sent shockwaves through the community. These were not men hiding in shadows. These were people neighbors trusted, supported, and defended. When the financial records were fully unlocked, investigators found over $96 million in laundered funds moving through layered accounts across 3 countries. The money never sat still long enough to raise alarms. It moved as donations, investments, and trade payments. On paper, everything looked legal. In reality, it was blood money, recycled endlessly while overdoses quietly climbed. The human cost became clear when medical examiners compared timelines. Analysts estimated that fentanyl distributed through this single network may have contributed to thousands of overdoses across Minnesota and neighboring states. Many victims were teenagers. Many had no criminal history. The drugs did not come from dark alleys. They came from trusted hands. By the end of the day, the Basher operation was officially dismantled. 19 arrests, dozens of properties seized, businesses shut down, assets frozen. Federal prosecutors announced sweeping charges including narcotics trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy, and exploitation of minors. Several defendants now face life sentences, but as the news spread, a harder question lingered. How long had people ignored warning signs because they did not want to believe them? How many times had concerns been dismissed to protect appearances? The Basher family did not succeed because they were powerful. They succeeded because they were trusted. This case exposed a truth that makes people uncomfortable. Crime does not always look like violence. Sometimes it looks like charity. Sometimes it wears suits, smiles for cameras, and builds community centers. And sometimes the most dangerous networks are the ones no one wants to question. The house raid at 4:47 a.m. ended a criminal empire, but it also left behind a lesson Minneapolis will not forget. Evil does not always break down doors. Sometimes it is invited inside.